What's up guys, it's Chase from RenderRite, and in today's tutorial we're jumping in from Twinmotion into Unreal. We're going to export a file from Twinmotion. We're going to show you how to import that one into Unreal Engine, and then we're going to go through adjust some material, some of the lighting, and yeah, that's it. Let's get going. So first off, we're going to start by importing a file I've downloaded from the 3D warehouse. It's just an interior scene, just a little cabin, kind of upstairs bedroom thing. I'll put the link in the description for you guys to go ahead and download it and maybe give the support to the creator. So I've got my file here. I'm just going to drag it up. I'm going to go ahead and just cover the bottom because there's no walls at the bottom, so I'm just going to duplicate the side walls and drag them down, just create a couple copies of those, and then I'm just going to select those and rotate, duplicate again, and yeah, you get the idea. So I'm just going to go through and do this for the next few walls. So I'm going to go down to my media panel, just going to create an image here. I'm just going to change my resolution to, or my format to 2000 by 2000. Also going to go to camera, adjusting my focal length. This is important because with the Datasmith file, it imports it into Unreal Engine, so it imports your cameras as well. So there's some light leaking downstairs coming through, so I'm just going to duplicate these and rotate them and drag them across, just to cover up that space where the light's coming through. I'm going to rotate, duplicate, do that same process again. Okay, so now that we have our walls, I'm just going to go back to my image. It's already looking pretty good. I'm just going to go through and adjust some of the settings here. Some of the contrast, saturation. Some of that stuff's not important. Only the camera settings usually work in importing it into Unreal Engine. I don't think the temperature and stuff like that will work and be brought through, but I'm just going to go through and adjust it anyway. I am going to adjust some of my sun intensity here. Moving down to the HDR environment, I've just turned that off. I'm just going to adjust my sun rotation. So I'm just adjusting the north offset on the location under environment. I'm just going to update my image. Head over to Megascans. I'm going to start applying some Megascans materials to my scene. So you can add whatever materials you like. I'm purely just doing this for an example. So now I'm going to go and select a wood texture for my floor here. I like to use the plank from the Megascans. They have some good options in here. So I'm just going to go through and find one to my liking that I can add to my scene. I'm going to download a couple, see what they look like. At any time in this video, if you feel like it's going a bit too slow, you can speed up the playback settings just to increase the speed of the video. If you are intermediate or advanced at Twinmotion, that might be the best idea, just to run through to specific points. I'll also put some tags in the video so you can skip to certain parts, but yeah, for beginners though, this is perfect, so stay tuned and keep watching, because you're going to learn a lot from this video. So I've just applied a wood plank texture to my floor here, which looks quite good. I'm just going to use that one. I'm not going to use a lot of detail in this scene, so I'm just going to choose a few different wood textures and apply them. Usually if this was for a client, I would be spending a lot more time in creating the scene and adding a lot more detail, but since this is a tutorial and an example, I'm just doing a quick sped through version. So I'm just adjusting some of the saturation and gamma from that material. You can click details under the color panel. I will just adjust some of the UV scale for that as well. It looks terrible, but again, it's for an example, so just adding some roughness to some of the materials, just to give it some little bit of reflection. It just adds minor detail to your scene. So now I'm just going to download a decorative wall tile for my wall, which I'll replace the brick that's already there. So under the Megascans, I'm just downloading this decorative wall tile. Which looks pretty good. So I'm just updating my scene again. I'm gonna quit the media mode. I'm gonna start adjusting some of the materials up here. I'm just gonna take the same wood material and apply it to the beams. So I'm just duplicating that material and then I'm gonna rotate it and apply it to the second beam. And then I have these red wires here. I'm also gonna just select these. I'm gonna go to my material dropper, select that, and all I'm gonna do on this one is adjust the roughness intensity. And now I'm also going to apply a brushed aluminium material to the metal hangers. As you can see, there's no glass on the light bulb. Well, there actually is, but you just need to apply the material to it. Inside here, I'm going to apply a emissive material to the light. I'm going to select materials, under standard, click the tab and click emissive. I'm just applying emissive material into the center of my light bulb. I'm going to adjust the color temperature of that, just to soften it a little bit. I just start playing around with the material here just to try and see how the emissive material will look. I'm just going to select the brushed aluminium material that I made black and apply it to my light bulbs. There's also a light bulb here that's missing the glass, so I'm just going to select that and apply the glass material to that missing light bulb. And also apply the emissive material to that light bulb as well. Great, so it's looking good so far. Just going to go over to this plant here and apply a glass material to the vase. Going to go back to my image. It's looking good. I'm going to create another image here, and I'm going to go to real time and select lumen so we can see the difference between the path tracer and the lumen. Just going to increase my lumen settings here. Go back to environment, and I'm going to adjust some of the lighting. Again, this might not be important for our Unreal scene, but I'm just going to go through and show you guys how to do this stuff anyway. So here's my path tracer scene. So in Unreal Engine, we can go and increase stuff like indirect light intensity. We can play with a lot more settings to enhance the visual fidelity of our scene. So in Twinmotion, we can get some really great looking images, but then we can take it into Unreal and just put that wow factor into it. Now we're going to go down to our materials and select fabric. So we have some new fabric materials in here, like cotton plain thin. So I've just applied the cotton plain 01 to my bed, and I'm just going to go through, adjust some of the color, have a look at some of the other materials. Got muslin, that's also see-through, so it's a thin material. So I'm just applying these materials to my bed and pillows and backboard. All the materials that we place in Twinmotion, previously you had to download the Twinmotion content for Unreal Engine, but now we can actually export the datasmith file straight from Twinmotion into Unreal Engine, and it brings in all the materials and everything that's required for that. So I'll show you how to do that shortly after we just continue to go through and finish cleaning up this file. So I'm just looking for a plywood that I can apply to my walls. So I'm going to download the plywood panels. And apply it to my wall / roof. So that really brightens the scene up and gives it such a natural feel to it. The natural wood colors and brick texture looks really great. I'm going to duplicate this brick material and reduce the scale to match the scale of the other brick on the back wall. Just a rough estimate. That's looking better. So I'm just going to increase the roughness of that sign in the background, enhance some of the metallic, and increase some of the roughness. I'm just going to go ahead and replace the basket that's in my scene. So I've just searched one in the library on the left hand side. I'm going to download the Wicket basket. So I'm going to drag the wicker basket into my scene, and I'm just going to scale it up to try and match the size of the other basket. It doesn't have to be perfect. So I did try to just drag the material of that basket onto the other one just to try and match it, but obviously the UVs aren't right, so I didn't go with that at all and just decided to delete the existing basket and replace it with my wicker basket. So now I'm heading back to my materials on my bed. I'm just going to place more of the materials to my bed. Now I'm just going to go through and delete the existing plant that's sitting in the vase. I did try to delete this plant and replace a plant in this existing vase, but I decided to just not go with it and delete this whole thing entirely. So I'm just going to skip to my new one that I've created. So we've jumped to the creation of the new one. So I'm just going to download the Zamia palm from the Megascans 3D plants library. So I just click the plus on the variations and it creates the Megascans plant. I'm just going to select the one that I want, drag it into my scene. Comes in gigantic, so I'm just going to adjust the scale of that. Obviously there's some scale problems wrong with my scene because the plant shouldn't come in that size. Anyway, I'm going to download a vase from the Twinmotion library, drag that in, scale my plant down. Scale my vase up, and then scale my plant down. Just like that. I'm just going to drag it into the vase a little bit more, so it doesn't look like it's floating. And voila. So I'm just going to duplicate it and adjust the size just to increase the density of that. I'm also going to adjust the material of the vase. Just something not so bright. Sweet. It's looking good. I've just created another image. I'm just going to create a few different variations with Lumen, Path Tracer, HDRI on, HDRI off, just to see what settings get brought into Unreal Engine. So I have just created a third image here. I've enabled the HDRI backdrop, which you can see has been turned on. There is a lot of noise going on in the scene, but later on I found out that that's to do with the fireflies, so you just have to reduce the amount of fireflies in your scene to stop the noise. You'll see that later on when we do that. So I'm just adjusting the bloom and flares because I thought at the beginning it was to do with that, but later on found out it was the fireflies. So I'm just going through and changing the style of my bloom texture, as you can see. This was another feature that was brought into 2024. I'm going to add some lights to my scene now, just some omnidirectional lights. I'm going to drag them up to where the light bulbs are. I'm just going to create two. They're going to be the exact same setting, so I'm just going to adjust the intensity to 5 lumens. I've adjusted the color and turned the shadows on, and you can see I still have a problem with the noise in my scene, but the lighting is starting to look really good. I also just applied my decorative wall tiles to my wall downstairs. Now this is when I start playing with the HDRI settings. So I've increased the intensity of the HDRI, which you can see has brought in a lot more skylight. So I reduced that to about 5, which looks quite good. And then for me to try and reduce the noise, I tried to enhance the quality of the path trace to high to try and calculate more of the light bounces to see if that would reduce the noise. But then I was still having problems with that, as you can see. So again, I went back to the HDRI lighting to see if it was that, and I changed the HDRI to another one that I had downloaded from Polyhaven, or yeah. And because I've put my settings on high, it's taking a lot more time to load the render. The little circle bar at the top that's loading, that is the path tracer loading. So as you can see, there's too much noise still in my scene, which was really frustrating me. I knew it was something to do with the fireflies or something like that, so I just continued to keep playing with the settings, adjusting the rotation, just trying to get some more light to come into my scene, trying to think that maybe adding more light into my scene would reduce some of the noise, which I was still getting the same issue. I then decided to go to my render settings and jump back into Lumen because I was having some good results from my Lumen. And again, I went back to adjusting the HDRI settings. So I am going to my render settings now to show you how I'm fixed the noise in my scene. So I turned denoiser off. I was playing around with the denoiser a bit, and then I went down to fireflies and decreased my fireflies to about 10. And boom, instantly fixed. So decreasing the intensity of the fireflies decreases the brightness that's in the scene being produced by the lights. So reducing that will reduce the intensity in hand, reduce the amount of noise that's in the scene. So that was the fix for me. Heading back to our camera settings, we're gonna adjust some of the settings in our camera now and some of the effects. But firstly, we're gonna head back to the camera tab. We're gonna go to details and increase the vignette. So I'm just gonna put that up to 65, increase the sharpness to 15% and chromatic abrasion to 5%. Not too much for that because you only want a subtle change. I'm going to turn parallelism on in my camera as well. So you can see our scenes really shaping up. I'm going to enable some depth of field. I'm going to choose my focus point. And now it has added some depth to my scene as well. I'm just going to adjust the aperture to 2, and now we're going to head back to our plant and vase. I'm just going to copy the vase and Zamia palm and duplicate it to the other side, just so we have another plant on the other side of our bed, which you can see looks really good. I'm just going to go back to the library, select vegetation, trees, and I'm just going to add some bamboo to the outside window. Just some vegetation on the outside will look quite good. There is one issue though, bringing the vegetation into Unreal Engine. There are some invalid light map settings, so I need to figure out a way to sort that, but as soon as I figure a way to sort that, I'll add it into the video description as a fix, so do not worry about that. So now we're just going to move on to export our image. So I'm just going to double check our image ratio. We've got 2000 by 2000. I'm going to select export down the bottom. I'm going to select image and click the plus. I'm going to select my image 6, which is my path trace image. I'm going to select the refinement to high and choose a export location. So now that's exporting, we're going to move on to the next part of this scene, so stay tuned. Now that our image is done, we're going to move on to exporting/importing to Unreal Engine. So now that we've completed our file, we're going to export our Twinmotion datasmith file to Unreal Engine. So I've got Unreal Engine 5.4.1 downloaded currently, so I'm going to go ahead and open that. If you don't have Unreal Engine installed, you can download the Epic Games Launcher, go to Unreal Engine and then select the engine version and just download it from there. If you don't have the Epic Games Launcher, I'll put a link in the description for you guys to download. So I've got my project browser here. I've got recent project, games, film, video and live events, architecture, automotive and simulation. So for this one, because it's architecture, we're going to choose to go with the architecture preset, and we're just going to select a blank map, and I'm going to name my project Twinmotion to Unreal. When you're creating your Unreal file name, you have to put an underscore as a space, otherwise it won't let you do it. I'm just going to click create. So the reason I am creating my Unreal Engine file or project first is because you have to export the datasmith from Twinmotion to the Unreal project location. So now that we have our file or Unreal Engine project open, we're going to go to Twinmotion and select File, scroll down to Export to Datasmith File, and we're going to select Standard for this one. So you need to go to your UE projects, find your project, so I've got my Twinmotion to Unreal, and then you're just going to save it into that project location. So I'm just going to name my project Twinmotion to Unreal, and then that's going to export a datasmith file. So that's exporting to datasmith, converting objects. So you just have to let it do its thing and we'll move on once that's complete. So now that's completed loading, we're going to go to this little box at the top, select datasmith file import. We are going to go to our project location and select the datasmith file that we exported, which is this one. I'm going to click open. Those are the assets for it. We're going to click open on the datasmith file, and I'm just going to save it into my content folder. Just leave that as it is and import. So it's just going to load and import the Unreal datasmith file from Twinmotion. Once that complete, our scene has been imported into Unreal Engine. So if I close the content browser, just delete the starter floor. I'm going to go up to perspective, and down at placed cameras you can see our camera that we created. So I'm just going to select the path tracer camera that we created, and now you can see that our camera is in Unreal. So that is how easy it is to import into Unreal now. It still is generating the mesh cards and materials and all of that. So once that's complete, you can start going through and adjusting the lighting and all the settings. So now that that's complete, we're going to go and start to set up a little basic render in Unreal Engine. So what I just did there, I just changed from deferred rendering to path tracer. So you can change between, like you can in Twinmotion, from Lumen to path tracer with just a simple couple clicks. So I've just typed in post, so I'm going to select my post process volume, which is in my scene, and I'm just going to search up path. So I've brought up the path tracing tab below. I'm just going to turn on max bounces and samples per pixel. In doing this, we can adjust the settings for the path tracer. At the bottom of our screen, you can see a little red bar that's loading. So that's the speed of our path tracer and how fast it's generating our traces. So to adjust that, we need to enable those boxes, and then we can reduce the samples per pixel. So we can change that from 2048 to something like 256, which is the same as the high quality export for Twinmotion and path tracer. So I'm just going to enable the sample per pixel box. I changed it to 512, but still it's taking too long to load, so I'm just going to adjust the samples per pixel back to 256, and I've also adjusted the max bounces to 10. So you can see the loading time now has drastically increased. The bar is nearly halfway to loading. So we have reduced the amount of time it takes to generate our path trace image for a preview. For when you want to export, you can change those path tracer settings to be higher. So now that we've done that, we're going to just go through and adjust some of the post-process volume settings. So some stuff like the bloom. As you can see, we've changed the method to convolution, and intensity we are adjusting. So we're just going to go through and play around with these settings to get something that we like. We're not going to spend too much time. But yeah, just follow through and tag along and just take in as much information as you can and utilize this to go off and create something amazing from Twinmotion to Unreal. We're going to go ahead and create a new camera now. So we're just going to click the burger bar at the top left, scroll down and create camera here. So I've just selected a cine camera actor. I'm going to go perspective and select my new camera. Now that we have our new camera selected, I'm going to go up to the clapperboard and add level sequence. I'm just going to name my level sequence. It's going to call it render, just because we're going to create a single render. So we have our sequence here. I'm going to find my camera I've created in the outliner. I'm going to drag my camera into my sequencer. And here is my camera. So currently it's set to 150 frames. So when we go to render this, it'll render 150 frames. So I've adjusted it to 2, but I've misled you in this and I've done it wrong. I didn't actually select my 2 frames. It's not in the correct, it's only viewing 2 of the 150 frames. I should have set it to start at 1 and finish at 2. So that's my mistake in there. But still, when you go to render this, it'll try to render 150 frames, but you can just cut it off at 2 once the 2 frames are rendered. So yeah, just remember for next time, and myself, that the working or end range needs to be adjusted so it doesn't render all those other frames. Image setup, I'm going to click render this current frame or movie. I just clicked output to show where the image would be output to, which is movie renders under saved. So now I'm going to settings and going to the unsaved config, and we're going to go through and add deferred rendering, path tracer, anti-aliasing, game override, high resolution. For the anti-aliasing, I'm going to turn up to 32 and then override the anti-aliasing. So I found some better rendering settings which I figured out after all of this, so I'll add those settings into the video description. There are also some console variables that we can add to that, like screen percentage and some ones that fix some of the lumen flickering, but that's more for movies, so I'll just add the ones that are relevant to a single render. So once that's all done, I click render, and then it's just going to provide our output. So as you can see, my subsample 32 of 1024 is being calculated. Frame 1 of 150 is being done. But that's because I didn't set the end range for my movie. I should have only set 1 or 2 frames because I'm just trying to produce an image, not a full, movie. So once this is finished, we're going to move on. I'm just going to skip ahead quickly. So now that our subsample has finished and our frame has gone to 2, we can actually stop the rendering because we don't need to render all of the other frames, because that was my mistake. So once that's done, just close the render, and then we're going to open up the file where it's saved to. I'm going to go to my UE projects, select my project, find saved, and then movie renders. And there we have our render that's been exported. So with the settings that I've put in, it has provided a pretty nice output anyway. But yeah, the settings that I did find out after this video did increase the visual fidelity of the whole image. So I'll put those in the YouTube video description. Now that our image is complete, we're just going to change the scene up a little bit. We're going to delete some of the Datasmith objects in the file. So we're going to start with the bed. Just going to go through and delete this bed. So now that our bed is deleted, I'm also just going to delete the vegetation on the outside because it has some invalid light map settings which is not showing it properly. So I'm just going to delete those. Now I'm going to open up my Epic Games library, and in my vault I have a lot of things here, but I'm looking for a furniture. So this pack is not available for 5.3 yet, that's why I can't add it to my scene. I mean 5.4, that's why I can't add it to my scene. Yeah, so I have to add I add the meta furniture pack, which I have downloaded from the free monthly marketplace items, which they have free Unreal Engine items every month, which you can download. So now that I have added that to my project, I'm going back to my content, selecting the furniture pack, going to furniture, and I have my different types of furnitures here. I'm going to select static mesh, and I'm going to find a sofa that I can put in here. So I've got this 2-seater sofa that I've just imported and dragged into my scene. Now that we have our sofa imported into my scene, I'm just going to place it, rotate it, and place it up against my wall. So you can go ahead and turn snapping off, so you can place the object more finely like that. I'm going to go ahead and rotate. And then just drag it up against my wall. Now we have our sofa placed, we're going to go up to the Quixel bridge and we're going to add some materials to our scene. So I've got a plywood here at medium quality. I'm going to go to highest quality and add that to my scene. I've already got it downloaded, so that's just going to add straight into my content browser in Unreal Engine. It takes a second to load, but now that I have that in there, we can go head to the Megascans, Surfaces, Plywood, and drag my material to my surface. So the reason I'm downloading the materials from the Megascans Quixel Bridge library is because you can change the quality of the resolution of those textures. So I think for Twinmotion it downloads it at medium quality, and in Unreal you can go up to highest, which is, I'm not too sure what the resolution of those textures are, but they're a lot higher and a lot better quality, so I tend to just replace them with some of the Quixel Bridge textures just for the quality. I'm also going to replace my decorative wall tiles that I have behind my sofa. So I'm going to download the highest quality for this one and click download. It will take a while because of, the quality of the texture, depending on your internet connection speed as well. I'm using Wi-Fi and my internet's quite slow, so that is the reason why it takes so long to download. So while we wait for that, we are just going to adjust the camera and choose a different angle. So we're just moving our camera around here, and we've just moved it to the other side of the room to get a different angle. So the lighting looks quite good here. I'm just going to add a coffee table to my scene. So I'm just going to drag and drop that and change the scale of that. So my scale is set to snapping as well. If you don't like that, you can set it to freeform, which will just scale it however you want really, and it won't snap to anything. So now I'm just placing it, trying to get it to look nice. You can go up to the right hand corner here and change the camera speed if it's moving too fast, to get a little bit more accurate placing on the camera. I'm just going to drag a bowl onto my coffee table, scale that down a little bit. I'm also going to add a rug to my scene, which looks quite cool. Moving on, I'm just going to place a armchair into my scene now. So once that's loaded, I'm just going to place it here. I'm going to delete the existing chair that I have in my scene, but I'm just going to place my new chair first. So once I have that placed properly, I'm going to delete the existing chair. I'm going to lower that a bit. It's looking good. So now that our decorative wall tiles are downloaded, I'm just going to add that to my content browser. Once that's been added to our scene, we're going to go back to content, we're going to find megascans, surfaces, and decorative wall tile. So I'm just going to apply that to our wall. And as you can see, the texture is just banging. Now that we have our basic scene set up with a rug, some furniture, some materials, some lighting done, you can see how good Unreal Engine can look with just some really basic simple settings adjusted. And it's not even much, because it brings all your cameras from Twinmotion, it brings all your materials, it brings your vegetation, everything like that. The vegetation is one thing that I need to find out how to sort, and it's only the generic Twinmotion vegetation that I'm having issues with, and that's just with the light map settings. But yeah, you can see how good the Lumen and global illumination system is in Unreal Engine. So I hope this video was a big help for you guys, and I really hope that you guys can create something amazing with this tutorial. Because as you can see, I created something pretty epic with not much time. So yeah, you guys create something banging, and I'd love to see what you guys come up with. Hey guys, it's me again. Thanks heaps for watching my video. It's been great, the support that I've had. I want you guys to keep liking and subscribing to my videos, because there's going to be some more content coming out soon. So yeah, thanks heaps for the support, and we'll see you soon.